Already. Hey guys, welcome to the MatchNet podcast. We have with us Tomomi Fukuda. How are you doing, Tomomi?
Hi. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. And also we have Robert, her better half, Abendroth, or lesser half. Which one? Are you the better half or lesser half?
Lesser, for sure.
Good answer. Better for sure. No. Yeah, it's good to have you guys. You guys were blessed pretty recently, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
This year, 2022, as of recording just a few short months ago. So first of all, let me ask you, how are you feeling? How does blessed life feel?
Yeah, it is a new experience. Everything like living with someone else all the time, and also really growing all the time and learning from spouse, and that feel very different with me. So like every day is like challenging, every day is adventure. Yeah, very positive for me too.
Okay. What about you, Robert?
It's great. I mean, I feel like it's not super challenging, at least not yet. But it's definitely amazing. Yeah. What to say? I mean,
any arguments, you guys? Tomomi, you said that you guys are having some challenge. This is why people listening, guys, they want to hear the dirt. Any arguments you guys have recently?
Maybe, recently we are talking about our future.
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily differences, but yeah, talking about the future is like, it's like, what is she going to be doing? And does it make sense for me to be doing this thing when she's doing that? And it's like kind of hard to, figure out.
Yeah, come on the same page.
Yeah, so.
Got it. Well, what's your favorite thing about each other? Let's start there. You weren't prepared for this, were you? Off script. Got to throw you off.
My favorite thing about Tomomi, she's always trying to make me happy. I don't know, maybe sometimes too much, but I think that's one of the best things about Tomomi. I don't know, we've had a lot of like good, deep conversations. Even like in the beginning of our matching process, but like, even now we continue, like things come up and like we learn something new about perspective or just like what she thought about me, even like before we got matched. Like I learned some new things just in this past week. So
she's very considerate of you and your happiness.
Yeah, considerate.
That's interesting because for people that don't know, Tomomi was the like assistant of Dr. Young, right? Like personal, like you drove him around and made food for him, right? For how long?
Right. Over 1 year.
Over a year. You were like his closest person, and now you have Robert as your closest person. So you're taking all of that like attentive energy and giving it to your husband, which is pretty cool, right? Tomomi, what about you? What is your favorite thing about Robert so far?
There is a lot, but one thing I like to pick is he's very supportive all the time. Whatever I like to do or whatever I want to be or I want to do, he tried to understand, or he tried to support me to realize this. Not without like questioning, or without like judging, or without disagree. More like try to understand why, or try to support as much as he can. So I'm so grateful about this. In the future too, like whatever we create something together, he tried to support me. Also, I like to also support and help that he wants to. So
keep that going, guys. It's nice to have things that you love about your spouse. My wife and I, Hitoe, it's like every anniversary we have like one additional thing that we say we appreciate about each other, because we're not the type to like say this kind of thing all the time. That's just not our character, I guess. And so we find one thing to say about each other every year that's new that we learned. And I'm always amazed at the stuff she comes up with. And it's like she finds a way to make a compliment that's also offensive at the same time for some reason. You guys know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess so.
It's like it's like one of them was like, I'm so amazed at how long you can go without taking a shower or something like that. It's like, thanks, honey. Like without like it's like she's kind of being she's trying to just be funny and like take a jab at me at the same time. But anyways, I think it's hilarious. I don't mind. Yeah, but tell us. So let's try to be helpful for people that are listening. Tell us how you guys met.
How we met. I mean, the first time we met was just briefly in like 2019 or 2018. Yeah. Yeah, and then we attended like a workshop type of thing together for a little while. But yeah, we never really like talked deeply. But yeah, when it comes to like the whole matching story, at least on my end, we yeah, like long story short, pretty much we met through Dr. Young. Dr. Young, he introduced us. I mean, we already met, but yeah, he Tomomi was working for him. I'm sure she'll share her side of the story. But yeah, yeah, one day Dr. Young met with my parents actually, and then like the next day he met with me. He was in the area, and yeah, he was like, I'll find you a spouse. And I was like, what? All right, that sounds cool. I mean, yeah, so yeah, definitely.
What did he say anything to you? Like, did he make any comments about you as a person, or he was just like, I'm gonna find you a spouse?
What did he say? I mean, no, I mean, I guess this came after his conversation with my parents, and like, yeah, just kind of understanding my situation. And then, I mean, I found out later that like that he and Tomomi were already like looking at me, thinking about me as a possibility. But yeah, that's basically what it was. I was like, kind of like, what? Okay, cool.
So then he went back to Tomomi. What's your side of the story, Tomomi-san?
Well, yeah, as you mentioned also, Robert, you mentioned too. Yeah, I was working with Dr. Young over 1 year as his assistant, and he had a only one desire to me, anything else. Tomomi, I feel you should receive blessing as soon as possible. This is my only desire to me. So that is kind of beginning. I met him, and also the beginning to start as his assistant. And I felt a lot of pressure because I felt I was not ready yet. Also, I don't know so much. I didn't know so much who Dr. Young is. So I feel so much pressure about that. Yeah, from some leaders to involve my matching process, or even like finding the spouse, suggesting the spouse. And then it took like more than 7 months or 8 months to kind of open my heart to listen any suggestion from Dr. Young or any person, any matching advisor. But for me personally, Dr. Young, because he was my kind of boss or central figure, and he was one really taking care of my matching. Also my parents too, but he was really direct to help a lot, speech like mentally, also practically as well. And yeah, it took a lot of time to open my heart, and then hearing a lot of guidance, also the value of blessing, and then finally I opened my heart, and then whatever like God works, I'm ready to hear any suggestion. And then Dr. Young mentioned, thought about seriously about as a potential candidate at that time.
So it sounds like you said you had to open your heart to this idea of even receiving a suggestion from Dr. Young. Right?
Yeah.
So you had to have some kind of change in your relationship with him, right? So what happened there? What happened?
First of all, I think I had a difficulties. I mean, I had a really difficulties to trust, especially kind of man, man, because I have a one older sister. I don't have a brother, and also my relationship with father was not so much close. I mean, I didn't so much struggle with my father, but he was always busy with his work. I didn't so much share my honest feeling or like my feeling, my future, my even like blessing to my father. My mother, I talk to my mom all the time. So because of like blocking my relationship with father, somehow I really didn't want to listen any kind of opinion from yeah, like other people. Also, Dr. Yon was man, so that's why I really blocked Dr. Yon's suggestion, honest. But I knew my difficulty, yeah, my difficulties. So I tried to deal with my difficulties through like working on my relationship with my father. So I put my effort to take a time and understanding my father and even calling once a week and yeah, loving my father or like who who what my father is, my father nature what is. And then because of that slowly my heart really was going to open to listen to Dr. Yon's suggestion, or even not Dr. Yon, any suggestion from other people.
Thanks for sharing that.
Mhm.
Robert, when you hear that, what you think about?
Yeah, actually, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, I thought so. I see your face like, what? you don't trust men? What is it?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's, yeah, I am, yeah. Didn't know that. I guess, yeah, that is amazing that you're able to overcome that. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm still processing it, to be honest. But yeah.
Well, I think this hits on a really important point for everyone listening, is that there's way more than we could possibly know without actually reaching out and doing the work. Because oftentimes we are in our heads all the time. That's where the battle's happening. And it's happening in our hearts, in our original mind. It's like a mind-body war zone that we're in. And that's why we say all the time, the fastest way to grow and to get your matching process moving forward is how to give and take with people. Let's talk with people. And in Tomomi-san's case, the thing she needed to do was work on this relationship with her father, which in effect allowed her to be more trusting and open to suggestions and opening ultimately to what? To letting God work. Because as long as we're stuck in our own heads and paralyzed by indecision, then we're physically limiting God from working because we're not trusting. And God cannot work in the absence of trust. God cannot work in mistrust. That's just principle 101. And it was wise of you to go to the original source of fatherly love, your father, so that you can understand how to trust God, how to trust someone else, in particular, Dr. Young, who's someone that I think when people hear that story, the thing they'll think is like, oh, she worked with Dr. Young. It's like a natural byproduct of working with someone like that. It's like, oh, she got lucky, or she was just in the right place at the right time. But under that is a story of a lot of turmoil and a lot of just indecision, right? And mistrust. But let me ask you, Tomomi, how many people did Dr. Young actually recommend to you? She's smiling. How many people did Dr. Young recommend to you?
I would say around 10 people.
Okay. Robert went, ooh. Okay. Sure. So, and this is just to be helpful for people who are in the same situation, right? Who maybe are indecisive and are trying to learn how to trust a process or know what the right gut decision is. So what happened between the first time that you were presented somebody by Dr. Young or by whoever as a suggestion, your parents, and then between that first opportunity and then finding Robert, what happened in your decision-making process? Like, what changed in you? What did you learn?
It's so deep question. Please. Yeah, Dr. Young, when I opened to Dr. Young's and I open my heart to Dr. Young, even like continuously Dr. Young says that to me, Tomomi, yeah, try, he used this word like deny yourself, but this word is a little bit very strong, but I came to realize this word is, yeah, put God priority, or put God's perspective into your relationship. So even like yeah, he suggests a couple matching candidate to me. I was really struggle with that. Who is the right person, you know? Who is the right person? How I can trust him, or how I can love specific person for eternity. I don't want to miss. I don't want to miss my choice, you know. So, but yeah, Dr. Young said this word, told me, deny yourself, and really put God's first priority, and bring God's viewpoint into your relationship matching process. So, I I really, yeah, struggle with that. What does it mean? But yeah, finally I understood. Yeah, everyone is really God's children, and also we are not perfect yet. We are still immature yet, but we like to have that kind of mindset, having growing mindset to grow together as a couple, and then finally, like, yeah, as a couple, yeah, supporting each other to become really good husband and wife, and really good future, like father and mother. So now I don't need to really looking for like perfect person or right person, rather than like, oh, I should have the mindset uh, growing with someone together for rest of life. Then yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, got it. So you adopted a growth mindset. Interesting. Okay. Robert, do you have anything to add to that?
No, not much. Yes, I'm not perfect.
No,
let's grow.
I'm not perfect yet. So
You guys are both very, very imperfect. Trust me.
imperfect.
You have a long way to go, and so do I. We all do. Okay, so here's a question for both of you guys. All right. Here we get into the good stuff. What is a belief, a skill, or a quality that you developed that served you well in the matching process?
I guess I can start. For me, I mean, I guess it starts with yeah, I guess it really starts with like my life of faith, like figuring out my life of faith, figuring out what I believed. Yeah, understanding, like I had to come, like there was one point in my life where I had to come at this, you know, I was at this crossroads where I was like, you know, do I want to be a part of this or not? You know, and like, yeah, really ask those like, yeah, deep questions, like what is like the heart of this movement, and like anyway, so I went on a journey, and eventually, yeah, of course, I as you could guess, I, you know, stuck with it, and yeah, yeah, had some, yeah, deep experiences, got some answers, and but yeah, but then even after that, really like figuring out what is like the blessing to me also. And yeah, I think the main thing that I came to realize, or I realized at one time at a workshop during one like 21-minute prayer, I really felt deeply like I want to, or that basically the idea that like we marry to resemble God. That's something that really excites me, and not just like inspires me and like at that moment, but like it's something that continued to like, it really stuck with me. Yeah, it's just really amazing, the idea that we like, you know, that I like together with someone, like, you know, God can like express himself, and God can love people, you know, love the world through us. Anyway, so that really meant a lot to me. And then that made me more serious about the blessing, and like when it came to like having crushes on people, it was like I could easily, not easily, but like yeah, definitely like help me realize like I don't want to just get matched to someone just because I have a crush on them. or just because I like them. But really, like, I really wanted to be guided by God. Eventually, I came to realize that. It was a long process, but yeah, I definitely came to realize that. And yeah, so of course, I like this one right here. So definitely, yeah, personally happy also.
Nice.
So, but yeah, I think that's one thing that definitely important in my process.
So how did you do that? Like, how did you go to that journey? What did you do? What did you ask yourself? Like, what was the process exactly?
It's a long story. But yeah, I mean, I mean, I guess if we go way back, like back when I was like 19, I'm 27 now. Back when I was like 19 was that period where I was like really serious about like these questions, like yeah, like, do I really believe, in this church's beliefs? And yeah, I decided to go to a workshop in Chungpyeong and like really take that time to dig deep. And I think it was really short, but I was like really serious. So I really I had a lot of experiences and I got a lot of answers. Like things became clearer. Yeah, it's very vague, but like I don't know. There was a lot there. I guess I don't know. I'm trying to just think like what's the main point I got out of that. I guess
you had a period of time where you were intensely serious about figuring out the answers to your questions, right?
Yeah.
And you came to a conclusion.
Yeah.
Which informed your decision to receive the blessing and to accept this lady that you have crush on and have you're like, I don't want to marry someone that I have a crush on. She was like, excuse me. No, he meant not only have a crush, also the benefit of being guided by God. That's what he meant.
That's the main problem.
I love seeing your faces like, no, Tomomi is fine. So this is I'm asking this, Robert, because it's helpful. It's like, how do we be helpful in sharing our experiences with people? Because people are listening or trying to replicate this. And I can tell you with utmost certainty that people who have a firm understanding of the blessing and their relationship with God succeed more in their marriage, period. Because when you have two people that have that common denominator, then they are willing to go through any of the inevitable difficulties in marriage and a relationship because they have a common vision and common meaning in the relationship. And if you have that, then there's nothing that is insurmountable in terms of conversations, difficulties, arguments, life experiences. Life happens, guys. And like you said, you're not perfect. None of us are. So it's inevitable that you're going to have more arguments than you guys have had so far. But I'm confident that you'll be okay because why? Because you have a common belief. And your belief is that, as Tomomi has concluded, the goal of this thing is growth. And guess what? If you have your goal as growth, there is nothing you cannot do. Nothing. And people think that's a naive, generally speaking, people think that's a naive way to think. It's like, no matter what, I'm going to make this marriage work. When people say that in society, people go, what about when this happens? When affair? We're like, what about it? Like, I can tell you after working with many, many people over the last decade who have been through the most egregious relational issues, there's nothing that is insurmountable, nothing that the blessing can't resolve if two people are committed to it and working on it and both willing to do the work. I'm not talking about shoving stuff under the rug. I'm not talking about hiding things in the closet. I'm talking about doing the work to restore a relationship and surpass things. There's nothing. I mean, we've seen the most egregious things you could imagine. As is what happens in life. That's just part of life. But when people are committed to growing, then there's nothing they can't do. And this applies to every aspect of your life regarding career, finance, relationships, anything, business, fitness, health, right? Whatever, hobbies. If you're willing to grow and that's your primary goal, then you can do literally anything, because there's nothing that life can throw at you that you won't say, hey, great, awesome. This is something I can grow from. Sweet. So I was asking you that, Robert, because I think that it's really the fastest way to shortcut success and happiness and fulfillment inside the blessing is to really understand what you're getting yourself into and be committed to it, so much so that you're willing to pay $2,000+, jump through every hoop, go to Korea like you guys did, right? And do all the crazy stuff, because the value of the blessing is so much in surpass of what you're offering that you're willing to do anything for it. And I could see that on your faces when you guys were in Korea, all dressed up and whatnot. It's because the value, the value surpasses the physical, difficulties or upfront cost of, going to the blessing, right? So that's why people who struggle with the blessing and their beliefs and relationship with God, honestly, when I talk to people like that, I tell them, as an older brother, I recommend that you take some time to really figure out what this blessing means to you, even if that means not getting blessed yet at this time, even if that means holding off a little bit, even though it's like our entire movement seems to be screaming like, get blessed right now, immediately, right, Tomomi? You know very well. But I promise you, if you just were like, yes, Dr. Young, yes, parents, I will get matched to whoever you want. Well, first of all, you would not met this guy sitting next to you, right?
Yeah, I think, yeah, for sure.
And second of all, you would have not had the conviction that the path you went on was guided by God. You would have not had the conviction or the trust that this is what God wanted.
Right.
And you would have just done it and probably been resentful later on in your life.
Yes.
And probably would have blamed somebody along the way.
Right.
And that's what the opposite of ownership is. And we're not blamers, we're owners of Chanoguk. We're not blamers of Chanoguk. Okay. So that's, I'm going to take a step back so you can finish answering this question. Thanks for sharing that, Robert. Tomomi-san, what about you? What are some beliefs or skills or qualities you developed in the process?
Benji, you covered a couple of things already, so I don't need to mention so much, but
Go for it.
Yeah, a couple of things. One is I mentioned before, for matching process, for me is not, looking for someone who really ideal or like perfect person or right person. More like I focus on really developing my internal ability, the internal aspect, internal qualities, like who I am as a God child, as God daughter. Also really embracing my uniqueness, even like my weakness too. Really loving myself and really proud of myself as a God child, as a unique beings. And also, I set a clear goal for the blessing. I like to receive a blessing. I'm going to receive blessing 2022 blessing. So which is I made it. But I really took my effort and really took this seriously and took really ownership and put my effort to prepare myself internally, also externally, to be able to really to start any matching process to start relationship with someone. So and also it helps me clarify the points what I like to achieve through my blessing with someone, with future spouse, so that I can go through my matching process so smoothly. So these points really help me so much to do.
Okay. So just to clarify, you became more clear about what kind of things you want in your blessing or what you want to achieve in your blessing. Is that right?
Yeah.
Can you give us some examples, some sample teaser about what's to come?
Well, so because I was born in this movement, my parents really asked me to receive blessing in the really early time, but to be honest, I was really struggling why I have to receive blessing. So, but that's why I like to, receive blessing with someone who have a really willingness and also ownership for own blessing, and also really joy, receiving blessing with joy, and also personal commitment to God and true parents through this blessing. So it took a lot of time to be able to have my ownership for my blessing, but finally I got the ownership. I really like to receive blessing. I like to offer my blessing to God, heavenly parents, true parents, with my future spouse. So I like to have someone who have a same mindset on blessing. And also I like to I see the value of God's lineage. So I want to keep this God's lineage that heavenly parents gave to me. I like to really sustain this lineage to the next generation. So someone who know or see the value of this lineage, so that I can realize through my blessing. So this the point, I think.
Thanks for sharing that. That's great. So what is something you'd want to tell your younger self to help you through the process?
Like first? Okay, I'll go. My younger self, I would say talk to central figures sooner. So like people that I really feel that God is working through, and in my experience, that's what I've noticed, or I've really felt also, like intuitively, that God works through the central figures like my pastor, my parents. So I would say like talk to them sooner, honestly, about everything, because I took a long time basically to like of course I had honest conversations with my parents, but I don't know, somehow it wasn't like, anyways, like, I could have been more honest, I guess. And then also speaking with my pastor, actually really, I mean, not even about the matching, actually, just about life. I was like stuck in my life about different things and like my future, and I just needed some guidance from God, kind of. And I talked to my pastor, and he basically said like, you should get matched. You're already 26, and you should you like figure it out with your wife in the future, basically, is what he said. Like, because I had this idea, like I need to like figure out like who I am exactly and what I'm going to be doing. And like, this idea that like, oh, like I don't want like this future person to come into my life and like change everything. I kind of had like these like kind of like concepts, I guess. But he was like, and I really felt, I felt that it was like God speaking, that like, figure it out with her, that's okay. Like, I don't know, maybe it's different for some people, but that's how I felt God was speaking to me in that moment. And then also helping with other issues, other struggles I had in life, and someone to like really pray for me. We even did like a prayer condition for a little while with my pastor. So for me personally, that's like, I wish I did sooner, basically. I would say to my younger self. So because that's what the pastor's job is to love the, I mean, hopefully all pastors are good at loving their congregation, but like that, that's their job. So don't be afraid to go to the pastor, I guess.
Cool.
That's what I'd tell my younger self.
Good advice. What about you, Tomomi?
Well, as I mentioned already, key is, I think, focusing on growth. That's all, I think. Well, it might be easier to bring the negative feelings like judgment or like distrust or miscommunication, misunderstanding into your relationship with someone who communicate with. But I mean, two individual so different background, comes from different background, different family, different natures. So basically, two individuals so different, and also we are not, yeah, reaching a, yeah, I mean, perfect yet. So yeah, so it's better to have a kind of having this mindset that, yeah, open your heart, yeah, let's grow yourself together with someone to be better for next for the rest of your life. It doesn't need to rush, even like step by step, every day, slow, even like slow, it is okay, just, yeah, grow together and then understand understand differences, and, yeah, grow your heart, open your heart, then it works. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you have had to overcome, either of you, in the process of getting blessed that you want to share?
Yeah, for me, yeah, actually, this is one of the main points I wanted to share. Actually, is basically my relationship with my mom, difficulties with my parents, like overcoming those difficulties. Yeah, and ultimately learning, kind of like I said before, like God works through parents. Actually, anyways, that's what I felt. But at first, it was like really difficult. It's like my mom has different ideas of like, than maybe what I'm thinking. And so at first I really struggled with my mom. Kind of went through this one matching process before, and it was very much like prolonged. It wasn't, I mean, it wasn't, to be honest, it wasn't even a matching process. It was like us just like twiddling our thumbs, like trying to figure out like how to, anyways, it's kind of complicated, but basically through that process, that's where I like really kind of struggled with like, my parents' ideas and like what I want. And kind of like I mentioned before, like, oh, if I have a crush on someone, like, I would want to get matched to them. But anyways, of course, like, so developing my own faith, like I mentioned earlier, but also developing like trust in my parents. Yeah. So not just blindly trusting them, but like, having my own faith, my own, getting clear on the blessing myself. And then there's like, it's a whole nother world of being able to, trust your parents. And so that's one of the, pretty much the biggest challenge. But slowly I just like started, I don't know if there was like necessarily like a breakthrough point, but it was kind of more gradual, where I just started realizing that like, that God is working through my parents. And that anyways, through that previous kind of process, I realized that. And then obviously that one didn't work out, but through that I really felt like God was guiding me to learn to trust my parents. And then when my parents found out about Tomomi, and they were really happy, and like that was actually it for me. Like my parents were really happy about it. I know, like, I mean, when I say that, I mean, like, I really felt like God was happy about it, basically, is what I'm saying. Not just like, oh, I'm just trying to make my parents happy, but ultimately, like, I'm trying to make God happy. Like I mentioned earlier, I want to, really create this marriage that God can really be, excited about. So, so in that process, our process was actually really short, and I felt it was really guided by God, and I felt, so.
What did you do to build that trust with your parents?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, prayer, and like really trying to get God's viewpoint.
Okay, so it's not about what you did, but it's about a perspective change you had.
I guess so. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's why I kind of struggle with that question. Like, it's like
Interesting.
But I had a perspective change.
Well, that's important to know, because many times we feel like just tell me how I do it. And to be honest, the biggest changes in our life happen from perspective changes and changes in our identities and our beliefs about our life in gratitude. Right. So maybe through that previous matching experience and subsequent experiences, you just came to the conclusion that that God can work through my parents. And I can trust that.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to Tomomi, actually, in a way, right?
You're right.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
It's kind of like relinquishing control in a way and letting God work.
Yeah.
Is there anything, Tomomi-san, you want to share? Anything, other things you had to overcome along the way that you want to mention?
Well, I already covered many. I would say many. But yeah, anyways, yeah, I had many negative feelings, or basically like fears, or like my choice is right or not, or this is to put my opinion on a lot of fears I have. But I tried to remove these kind of fears through building or deepen my personal relationship with God and sharing my like feelings, or sharing like honest feeling to God through my prayer, or even like starting my matching process with Robert. I ask God all the time, yeah, God, are you working in this process, or are you happy with that, or you create me and you have some vision to me through my life. You want to achieve something with me, and do you think I will achieve to get married get blessed with Robert as couple? Those kind of questions I always ask God and pray about it. And then if not, then God, please let's finish this process. Please finish. No, yeah, as soon as possible.
Stop the pain, please.
and then but God didn't say no. God didn't say stop, and like a process was really go smoothly and go quickly, and I felt always God presence in my matching process, especially talking to Robert. So I overcame those kind of struggles, like fears, especially through developing or deepen my relationship with God. So
Amazing. Awesome. Well, Tomomi and Robert, I think there is a lot everyone can gain from this episode. I would encourage everyone here to think about what's something they learned. There's a lot of nuggets of wisdom. Go back and listen to it again and again, and also share this episode with people. I just want to share one thing that I gained from this personally, like perspective that I've gained, is that both, here's two people, Robert and Tomomi, who went through their own process of self-discovery and journey to figure out who is God? What is this blessing all about? And what is my relationship to it? Because they both had opportunities earlier on in their lives, 19, 18, 20, that they could have just said, okay, like this is enough. What I understand of the blessing is enough, and I'm just going to jump into it. And well, they wouldn't be here where they are today. And they wouldn't have the understanding and the commitment and the fervent conviction about what the blessing is and who God is and who they are in relationship to God that they have now if they just didn't go through that process. So I want this to be like a lesson of encouragement to candidates, single individuals, that it's probably one of the most important things you do is figure out what the blessing and who God is. If you want the blessing, if that's what you want, and if you want your blessing to have God involved and filled with love and to be successful beyond your wildest dreams, you've got to figure out who is God to you. And if you find somebody that shares a similar belief, then there's no reason it can't work. And I was talking with a mother recently that I want to highlight this point, who was really honestly kind of frustrated at her daughter, who is in her mid-20s now. And she was kind of asking me for some, some advice about how to kind of have a conversation. Really good-hearted, parent, good family. And this is a common situation. This is why I'm sharing this. And she said that she's really frustrated because her daughter said she doesn't want to receive the blessing. And I said, oh, why is that? And she said, because she doesn't understand, she doesn't believe in it. And she doesn't have a strong conviction in God. And therefore, she doesn't want to receive the blessing. And now, without sounding like brash, I told her, that's amazing. Like, you should be grateful that your daughter is willing to share that with you. That you have the type of relationship where your daughter can be honest with you, even though she knows very well it's going to cause you pain and it's going to make you sad. And this is like all you've ever wanted is for your daughter to receive the blessing, and for her to say, I don't want to receive the blessing because I don't honestly understand what it's about. That's a good thing, because that means she's going through her own process of self-discovery. And even if it takes 40 years, and this is what your mother says, right? If you read True Father's autobiography, the advice that your mother gives to parents who have children who are wandering, right? The forgotten child, the black sheep in the family, people are wandering. Your mother says, just be patient and keep loving, and they'll come back. And I'm fully convinced, based on experiences like yours, Tomomi and Robert, and many, many others, that it's far more important to understand what the blessing is instead of just going into it for whatever other reason. But really, motivation is really key. And heart is key, and purity of mind and purity of heart. And if you have that purity of mind and deep desire to do what is best for God and for the world, then you can succeed, and God will work through that. Like, I'm 100% convinced in that. If you really genuinely want what is best for not just yourself, but to serve a greater purpose and a greater community, then God will work with that. And have a little trust, because both of you had to go through that process of opening up your hearts to be trusting, right? So that's just my experience and my learning from this, but there's a lot more that I think everyone can gain from this. Is there anything else you want to close out with? Anyways, I just want to say, like, I don't mean to belittle the experience of a parent and child going through that kind of thing, because I know that's a very real and very raw experience of a child not wanting to receive a blessing. But I feel like it's actually quite liberating to hear and to know that really the quality of a blessing is directly in proportion to how much somebody is understanding of it and committed to it, and committed and convicted that it's what they want. Because ultimately, why do we have the blessing, right? If you think about it for a second, ultimately, why have your parents come? Why? Is it to bless people? No, it's not. Your parents came to bless people and then pass on the blessing. It's to establish a lineage, right? So what is the greatest impactor to ensure that the blessing is not only given, but also bestowed to children and generations to come for decades and years in the future? It's that two people have the same vision and conviction in what they're doing, and raise their children in that environment and teach their children the way of the blessing. That's ultimately what needs to happen. Right? Ultimately. It's not just people coming together to have a good time and to make someone happy and make their parents happy, because ultimately that's not the ideal situation. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Benji.
Benji.
Thank you all. God bless you. We love you. Don't want me, Robert. Thank you so much. Take care.